Do you want to feel more confident while speaking English? Feeling confident while speaking a foreign language is a struggle for most people. And in this episode, Foster and I talk about our own struggles, feeling insecure, and what helped us feel more confident while speaking a foreign language and overall. We hope you enjoy it, and if you want to go a little deeper, don't forget to check out our website, improveyourlife.com, for the worksheets, transcripts, vocabulary and pronunciation tips, and your homework assignment. Just click on the link in our show notes to get access to it all. Are you ready to start feeling more confident? Me too. Let's get started. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Improve Your English, Improve Your Life. I'm Jackie, and I'm here with
Foster. Hey, Jackie. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Foster. So today we're going to talk about confidence, and this is something that I know I personally struggled with in general, and especially while speaking another language. I think most people feel less confident when they're speaking a new language because they can't express themselves very well. They make more mistakes. And it's definitely a lesson in humility, that's for sure. So, Foster, I'm going to ask you, how do you feel about confidence? Do you consider yourself a confident person? And what was your experience like learning Portuguese and Spanish? Did you feel confident in certain situations and not confident in others?
No. I would not consider myself a confident person. I think, it's strange because I think you probably received this as well, like because we have an audience, like people, we appear to be more confident than we are, perhaps. But in most areas of my life, I would say that I'm not particularly confident, and especially in the process of learning a new language. At least my first time learning Spanish, that was just a comedy of errors. But then with Portuguese, I was a little more confident. And nowadays, honestly, with my languages, I'm a bit more confident. So it kind of depends on the situation and what language I'm speaking, what I'm talking about. Does that make sense?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot of people can relate because, like me, you also learned Spanish first. So that was like our first time learning a foreign language, which the first time you do anything new, it's pretty rare to feel confident about it because you're doing it for the first time and you're probably not going to be good at it. And I think that's the hard part. We tend to feel good about ourselves and confident in situations that we feel like, yes, I'm good at this. Like I'm good at playing soccer, or I'm good at playing tennis, or things like that. Mm-hmm. But when we're the beginner, it's hard. It's a blow to our self-esteem. And I think especially if you're the type of person that puts a lot of pressure on yourself and that you worry a lot about what other people might be thinking. And I know I fall into that category for sure.
Yes, I think I do both of those things.
Yeah. And what I've noticed in the past few years that has been helpful for me is, and I don't know if it's just getting older, but I don't care as much as I used to about what other people think of me. And that has been tremendously beneficial in having a higher level of confidence because it comes from me. My confidence comes from within me, not from external factors like other people's approval or, the judgment from other people.
Yeah, totally. Okay, Jackie, I already have a million questions I want to ask you about this.
Yeah.
But I think a good place to start, can you give me like a basic working definition of confidence, what it means to be confident?
Yes. And this is such a good question because a lot of times when we think of a confident person, we think of someone who's extremely extroverted, who's very comfortable being the center of attention, who can maybe go on stage and give a presentation and They seem to everybody else, they seem to be very, very confident. But that's not always the case. That type of person might be confident, but maybe they're not. Maybe they're actually insecure and they're seeking approval from other people in a way to feel better about themselves. And confidence sometimes can be very quiet and very understated. It's just that sense of calm and peace with yourself that you're okay. You're okay sitting at the table by yourself. You're perfectly content. Or you're okay standing on stage and talking to a group of people. I think a lot of people feel like, oh, well, I'm introverted, so that means I'm not confident. And that's not true.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to think of my own definition of confidence, and it's quite difficult to define confidence without using the word confident.
I know.
But I think more or less what you said, I think the key kind of theme for me is being comfortable with yourself, being comfortable in your own skin. That is really the core feature of confidence for me.
Yeah, 100%. And in Foster, how has your journey been? Can you think of times in the past where you felt a very low level of confidence that now you would feel much better in those situations? Has there been a bit of a transformation that you notice? Or has there been anything that has helped you feel more confident?
Yeah, there's a lot. I can give you an example of a situation where I went from being extremely confident and losing all of that confidence, and then the opposite situation where I went from being very not confident to gaining a sense of confidence.
Perfect.
Is that cool with you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. A little known fact that I do not talk about on the internet very often. When I was younger, in my childhood, I was a very competitive junior golfer.
Ooh.
So I literally played golf every day until I was like 15.
Awesome.
And essentially that was like my life and identity. And on the golf course, I was super confident because I knew what I was doing. I was good. I didn't really have to prove that to anyone else. Like I knew it intrinsically.
Right.
I don't know how familiar you are. How familiar? I don't know how familiar.
Familiar.
Put that in the bastidores. So Jackie, I don't know how familiar you are with the game of golf, but there is this thing called the yips. Have you ever heard of this?
No, I know absolutely nothing about golf.
Okay, good for you. So the yips also exist in other sports, but essentially it's like an involuntary twitch of a muscle, normally like your right hand muscle.
Okay.
And essentially it makes the game impossible to play. So this also happens to like pitchers in baseball. And long story short, I got the yips and I couldn't shake it. And I had to quit golf completely. And the entire trajectory of my life changed. And for like 2 years, I was totally lost and completely not confident with myself.
That's so interesting. Is it like, is it a physical thing, like from overusing a certain muscle, or what's the cause of it?
Honestly, science doesn't have too much to tell us about it. I mean, it's got to be like mentally connected, like mind-body connection stuff.
Right.
But it is an involuntary movement of your muscles. So still today, I cannot hold a golf club without my right hand just like going insane. Very strange.
Interesting. Well, yeah, that was definitely a big blow, I'm sure, for you. And I mean, it's almost like, you know, when these professional athletes get injured or a professional singer has, you know, vocal nodules and can't sing anymore. Like the one thing that you really put a lot of your confidence in all of a sudden is gone. And so you have to discover who you are without that.
Precisely. Yeah, it's also a lesson in just not putting all of your eggs in one basket.
Right. That's a good expression. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yes, that's just don't be too specialized in one thing that you can't do anything else, I suppose.
Right.
But anyways, after my golf tragedy, I really started improving in school because my original plan was I'm just going to go to university and play golf.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, uh-oh, I actually need to get into college, like academically. So I ended up going to a better college and I started studying Spanish. And that's when my language journey started. And then years and years and years of trying to build up my confidence in Spanish. And it took a long time, but I learned how to do it. And then that translated into learning Portuguese very quickly and quite confidently. So a long way to say that confidence can work both ways.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think those are two perfect examples of how, there's a thing called confirmation bias. I don't know if you've heard of this, but basically, for example, like with golf, I am an amazing golfer. I'm going to go to college on a scholarship for golf and maybe I'll make a career out of it. And you have all this proof to kind of back that up, all the games that you've played really well at and all the praise you've received from other people. And then all of a sudden that's gone. And then you have to kind of figure out like, who are you without that huge piece of yourself? And it was a big piece of yourself that like really made you feel good. And that's amazing that you kind of turned it around and focused on your studies, on something else, and that it happened at a young enough age that you were probably more adaptable.
Yeah.
You see this happen with people when they're much older. And I think it is harder to kind of start over again or figure out who you are without that thing that kind of defined you or represented you.
Yeah.
But a lot of people go through stuff like that. And it is kind of a good question to ask. Like, what is it that you feel like really good about? Like maybe it's your career or you're a really good athlete. Like, what if that was taken away from you? Who would you be without that? And I think when we ask that question, like, that's when we figure out like, okay, where is my confidence? Is it in me as a person, or is it in my ability to do something really well? Or is it in my success? Is it in my beauty? Sometimes, especially women who are very, very beautiful, and they get a lot of praise for that as they get older. Naturally, we lose our beauty a little bit. It changes. I don't want to say we lose it. It just changes. We become older. And for some people, that's devastating. They feel like their value is gone because they aren't being chased after for being so beautiful anymore. And I think that's just something that all of us struggle with a little bit, but we have to be okay with ourselves without these external factors. And when you're okay with yourself, that's when you are truly a confident person.
Yeah.
It's not easy to get there.
Wow. No, that's deep. Very profound. I have a lot of questions again, Jackie. First, can you just clarify a bit the concept of confirmation bias? I know you gave us an example, but just to make it really clear for people, can you explain what it is?
Yeah. So this is something that I read about probably a year ago. And I know I had heard of it before, but sometimes you hear something and it just isn't the right time. It just doesn't sink in.
Right.
So confirmation bias, for example, let's say I tell myself I suck at learning languages.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I threw that thought out there, and then subconsciously, a lot of times we don't even do this on purpose, but subconsciously I start looking for proof to back up that thought. So I tell myself I suck at learning languages, and then I'm going to go back in my history of life and I'm going to pick out all the times that I did poorly on a test, that a teacher told me, I wasn't good at learning languages, that a student laughed at me when I made a mistake. And we do this on a subconscious level, but all it does is it gives that thought more strength.
Yeah. It amplifies whatever feeling.
Yes.
I'm imagining when I'm sad and kind of depressed, totally. I have a strong tendency towards a negativity bias. Like every small thing is like so bad. But when I'm happy, everything's beautiful.
And we all do it, and it's okay. You don't want to completely ignore these negative feelings. It's okay, but it's good to just question it. And I know Byron Katie has the series of questions where she kind of, and to me, this has been like life-changing, because you look at the statement that you're making. Okay, I suck at languages. And basically you ask yourself, is this true? Like, is this 100% true? And if you really question it, you say, okay, well, I have all this proof, look, my teacher told me I have a problem with languages, and this kid laughed at me when I opened my mouth and said a word, or I tried to order a coffee and they brought me something different. So you could say, yeah, it's true. And then you got to go deeper down, we'll flip that statement around. So I'm actually skipping through a couple of her steps, but if you flip it around and say, I'm actually really good at learning languages, and then just try to find the proof to back up that statement. And then maybe you'll think of a time where you actually did okay, or you learned something pretty quickly, or you spoke and someone understood you, or you could understand them. And then you have that counter evidence. So now you have like the proof that you're really bad at learning languages, and you also have the proof that you're actually not so bad. Maybe there's something underneath there. We look at things sometimes as very black or white, and they are not, and a lot of it is just what we feed. I heard a podcast the other day. A guy was talking about, like, inside of us, there's two wolves. Yeah. And which wolf?
The wolf we feed.
Yeah, grows the most.
There's actually a podcast called The Wolf You Feed.
Oh, there you go. I love it. But it's just like, whatever you're feeding, and whatever you're feeding with your thoughts, with your stories, that's the one that grows the most. And we just have to remember it. There's always two sides. So everything that we say, there's like a positive and a negative to it. And I just think that's like one small step to take. So next time we catch ourselves saying like, oh, I'm really bad at this, or kind of talking to ourselves in a negative way, just observe, be like, okay, is this really true? Is this helpful? And for me, I always remember, choose again. This is it's almost like a message that I get to myself, like automatically, like choose again, choose a different perspective. So rather than telling myself, I'm the victim, or I'm a martyr, or I'm really bad, just choose a different perspective that's going to be helpful. And once you force yourself to choose again, it's like this weight is lifted off of you, and you just begin to feel lighter and better.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Foster?
So we have the two biases of confirmation bias, or just like a negativity bias, and then also the bias that I fall into all of the time of black and white thinking, and then this idea of choosing again. I think those three can be enormously impactful, especially for language learners.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have, suggestions, like actionable things that, so I think for both of us, most students that we work with, they give us some version of like, I'm not confident. Maybe they don't say that. Maybe they say I'm anxious, or I need to improve my pronunciation. But essentially what they're saying is I'm not confident.
Right.
What's the move for those people to improve their confidence?
Well, I think there's like a couple steps that people can take. I think the first one is just realizing that those negative thoughts, or those negative things that we tell ourselves, are probably not 100% true. And so just observe it, be like, okay, choose again, pick a different statement. Rather than saying, I'm terrible at this, say, I'm learning or I'm getting better at this. And chances are you will definitely find proof to back that up. You are learning and you are getting better and you're trying your best. You're stepping outside of your comfort zone. And those are all positive things. Those are all things that you should feel very, very proud of and very good about. The second thing that has been really helpful to me is looking for mentors, like thinking of people that you admire in very specific situations. So I remember specifically for me, when I first started, my channel and my course launches and all that stuff, going live was terrifying for me.
Going live when no one's watching.
Yeah. Well, no, there was quite a few people watching and I was just like, oh my
going
gosh.
live for the first time. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, like going live on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram and just the whole technology. And I would have this presentation. I was so nervous. I literally was like almost having a panic attack every single time I had to do it.
I still do. That's why I don't do it.
It's terrifying. And what helped me so much was watching other lives. And I remember I participated in, it was like a stay-at-home challenge. It was the very beginning of the pandemic with Gavin and Javi. And we were doing lives, like the three of us, like alternating lives every week. Mm-hmm. It's just a kind of a way to get people studying and learning English throughout the crazy times. And there was a time when Javi went live and he had like a glass of water. It spilled like all over his keyboard. I think the light that was shining on him like fell over. It was just a series of events. It was hilarious. And I'm watching this and I like was imagining myself in that situation. And I probably would have had a heart attack just because that's like how I was. But he just rolled with it. He just laughed about it. It literally was like the best live of all of them because of the way he just didn't let it bring him down. And that was such a lesson to me. I was like, yeah, things are going to happen. It doesn't have to be perfect. And before I was telling myself, like if it froze or if I had a mistake in one of the slides, like, oh, this was terrible. It was a failure. Like I literally was telling myself that information. And now, like after seeing him do this, and I've watched a lot of other lives where stuff happens and just watching how people react to it in a really like light, fun, they're like in flow, they're present, they're just in it and interacting with the people watching. That was a tremendous lesson for me. And I just, every time I go live, I'm like, all I want is to just be present. I just want to be like in that flow state. I don't want to be worrying so much about all the little details. And since then, I feel completely relaxed now. I mean, I still get a little bit nervous, but I play some music and I interact with the people watching. And the whole quality of the live is so much better because I took that pressure off myself.
Yeah.
And
I really love that example.
Yeah,
It
I don't even think Javi knows how much that like changed my life.
Well, it reminds me of like all of my favorite performers, like musicians or comedians. Mm-hmm. They are so good at like just kind of rolling with it and just being quick on their feet. Yes. Like if a joke doesn't land, they know how to not take themselves too seriously. Yes. I think that's kind of the big thing with a lot of language learners.
Right.
It's not really about you. Like you don't have to be so precious about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
People aren't going to care too much if you make some mistakes. That could be with language or a live event or anything.
Right. And if anything, you're more relatable. I think it's just more real. And and again, it's just kind of like choosing a different perspective, a different way to look at things. And I know when I launched my course like earlier last month, I was thinking about the wolves, like don't feed the anxious perfectionist wolf, like let him go. And I imagined this other wolf with like a party hat on. And I'm like, we're going to have a party. Like this life is going to be a party. This is going to be fun. And it just like lifted the mood. And I just had so much fun with it. And nothing else changed except for my perspective of it. So I think a lot of it's just internal. It's all internal. And sometimes we think like, oh, well, when I lose 10 pounds or when I get 1 million followers or when I have $1 million in my bank, then I will feel more confident. And that is not the case. It comes from these tiny, like internal changes. And that affects everything all around us.
That's beautiful. I'm going to see if I can try to give all of that back to you. If I understood this, let me know where I'm wrong.
Perfect.
So most people think of confidence as something external, like they're externally motivated and they're seeking validation from others. But in reality, confidence is more about being comfortable with yourself.
Yes.
So essentially just changing the perspective from external confidence to internal comfort. And when in doubt, probably add some humor and don't take it so seriously.
Right.
Is that about right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Just, we have to lighten up and I think embrace our flaws as well. When we make a mistake, just laugh it off, have fun with it. Put on your party hat.
Okay, Jackie. I feel more confident now. Do you have any last words for our audience?
No, I think we covered this pretty well. So, I guess we could just finish off with the homework assignment for those that are looking for some tangible steps. Again, I just would pay attention to your thoughts and remember, choose again. This thought's not helping me. Let me choose a different one that supports me and encourages me.
That's an important second step. Pay attention to your thoughts.
Yes.
And then don't listen to them.
And then don't listen to them if they're not nice.
Because they probably won't be at first.
Right. It's true. It's true. And then the second thing is just think of some mentors or certain situations in which you saw people handle a situation that you admired. And just try to remember that, visualize that, and eventually, you will embody that in some way. So real simple things that make a huge, huge difference.
I think that's a great way to end it. Thanks a lot, Jackie.
Thank you, Foster. This was a fun one.
This was fun. I feel confident.
Me too.
Cool. I'll talk to you in the next episode.
Okay, sounds good. Bye, guys.